Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Pass me the book, please. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Eighth Canto, Withdrawal of the Cosmic Creations, Chapter 2, The Elephant Genders Crisis. Text 5. Siddha, Charana, Gandharvar, Vidyadhara, Mahoragai, Kinnarer, Apsarobishcha, Kridadbir, Jushta, Kandaraha, Siddha Charana Gandharvar, Vidyadhara Mahoragai, Kinnarer Apsarobishcha, Kridabir Jushtakandaraha, Siddha Charana Gandharvar, Vidyadhara Mahoragai, Kinnarer Apsarabishcha, Kridadbir Jushtakandaraha, Siddha Charna Gandharvar, Vidyadhara Mahoragai, Kinnarer Apsarabishcha, Kridadbir Jushtakandaraha. All right. Siddha, by the inhabitants of Siddhaloka. Charana, the inhabitants of Charana Loka. Gandharvai, the inhabitants of Gandharva Loka. Vidyadhara, the inhabitants of Vidyadhara Loka. Maha Urugai, the inhabitants of the serpent Loka. Kinnarai, the Kinnaras. Apsarobihi, the Apsaras. Sha, and Kridadbir Bihi, who were engaged in sporting. Jushta, enjoyed. Kandaraha, the caves. Translation: the inhabitants of the higher planets, the Siddhas, Charnas, Gandharvas, Vidyadharas, serpents, Kinnaras, and Apsaras, go to that mountain to sport. Thus, all the caves of the mountain are full of these denizens of the heavenly planets. Purport: as ordinary men may play in the salty ocean, the inhabitants of the higher planetary systems go to the ocean of milk. They float in the ocean of milk and also enjoy various sports within the caves of Trikuta mountain. Okay, text 6. Because of this, the resounding vibrations of the denizens of heaven singing in the caves, the lions there, being very proud of their strength, roar with unbearable envy, thinking that another lion is roaring in that way. Purport: in the higher planetary systems, there are not only different types of human beings, but also animals like lions and elephants. There are trees, and the land is made of emeralds. Such is the creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has sung in this regard, Keshava Tuya Jagata Vichitra. My Lord Keshava, your creation is colorful and full of varieties. Geologists, botanists, and other so-called scientists speculate about other planetary systems, but being unable to estimate the varieties on other planets, they falsely imagine that all planets but this one are vacant, uninhabited, and full of dust. Although they cannot even estimate the varieties existing throughout the universe, they are very proud of their knowledge, and they are accepted as learned by persons of a similar caliber. As described in Srimad Bhagavatam 2.3.19, Shravid Vrahoshtrakarai Samsuta Purusha Pashu. Materialistic leaders are praised by dogs, hogs, camels, and asses, and they themselves are also big animals. One should not be satisfied with the knowledge imparted by a big animal. Rather, one must take knowledge from a perfect person like Shukadeva Goswami. Mahajano Yena Gata Sapanta. Our duty is to follow the instructions of the Mahajans. There are 12 Mahajans, and Shukadeva Goswami is one of them. Swayambur, Narada, Shambhu, Kumara, Kapilo, Manu, Prahlado, Janako, Bhishma, Balir, Vyasakir, and Vayam. From the Bhagavatam 6.3.20. Vyasaki is Shukadeva Goswami. Whatever he says, we consider to be factual. That is perfect knowledge. Om Jnanativedandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshulan Militamena Tasma Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Katidivachavam Bangam Langaite Gidemya Kripatamaham Bande Shri Gurundini Tadinam Vancha Kapadivisha Kripa Sindhabevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So does anyone know where Sankirtan is? Oh yeah? I guess that's a good excuse. It's a good excuse to cook breakfast, right? So, Hare Krishna. So here we are reading about higher planets. According to the Bhagavatam, there are higher planets where different types of living entities reside. A list here, Siddhas, Charnas, Gandharvas, so on. Some time ago, Bhajanarayan Swami gave a presentation, a class, describing all these different personalities and what they do and so on. So yeah, there's a lot going on that we're not aware of according to the Bhagavatam. And the second verse that we read, text 6, describing how because of the resounding vibrations of the denizens of heaven singing in the caves, there are lions there, and the lions are very proud of their strength, and therefore they roar with this unbearable envy, thinking that another lion is roaring in that way. So, just as there are other beings on other planets, from the Bhagavatam we're hearing there's also animals on other planets. Like lions and elephants and trees, and as Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, there are trees, and the land is made of emeralds, such as the creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, throughout Srila Prabhupada's books and within the teachings of our previous acharyas or teachers, they do sometimes use strong language. Like here, it's very strong language. I mean, if you do a search, how many times Srila Prabhupada would use this term so-called. He said so-called scholars, so-called religionists, so-called scientists. He's practically calling everybody so-called. And that there's so-called, and then there's actual scientists and religionists and so on. People who are in knowledge. And not only would Srila Prabhupada say this in his books, in his lectures and morning walks and so on, call so many different people so-called, so-called. But he would also say this sometimes directly to them, which was probably shocking to them, thinking, oh, I'm going to come and see a peaceful. Of course, a devotee is peaceful, and Srila Prabhupada, as a pure devotee, is by nature peaceful, right? Akamas, what's that? Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakala Shanti Krishna Bhakti Nishkama Iteva Shanta. So the Krishna Bhakti has no material desires, so therefore they're peaceful. Everybody else, those after material enjoyment, those after mystic perfection, I guess this is appropriate, it's Kumbh Mela time, right? Those after mystic perfection, and those bhukti, mukti, siddhi, kami, desiring liberation, they cannot have any peace because they have desires, many material desires. So Srila Prabhupada is peaceful, as by definition, being a pure devotee, but people's idea of that is different. So some of these people, they think they would go and see Srila Prabhupada and be very peaceful, and he wouldn't challenge them or their worldview and just, make them feel good, right? But that wasn't the case all the time. It wasn't the case. And they were probably very shocked. And we could see practically just probably within there, if we look at the people, the type of people they were talking to, the gurus and the different personalities that these scholars and professors and scientists would meet, none of these people would challenge like Srila Prabhupada would. So, for example, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Goswami, one hero in our society, the Hare Krishna movement, he was a young man who joined Srila Prabhupada's mission in Los Angeles, and he was originally from Assam, right? Manipur. He's from Manipur, and he was attending university in California, and he had a scientific leaning, and he was a scientist. That's what he was going to school for. So he met Srila Prabhupada, and there's many morning walks with him and Srila Prabhupada, and they're speaking about science and so on. So one particular point, Bhakti Swarup Damodar Swami was with Srila Prabhupada in a room, and there was a professor who visited. And the professor was a professor of Hinduism. And then Srila Prabhupada asked him, so what is Hinduism? And the professor said, oh, I don't know. I guess it could be confusing, right? When people think of Hinduism. Very confusing. Professor, I don't know. And then Srila Prabhupada said, Bhakti Swarup Damodar, what do you call somebody who teaches something and they don't know what they're saying? They don't know what they're talking about. What do you call such a person? And then Bhakti Swarup Damodar said, you call him a cheater, Prabhupada. He's a cheater. And you can imagine the professor just like, shocked. Like, somebody's calling me a cheater. You're like, what? You're not used to that type of, especially from somebody, again, from a religion or spiritual group. So, but Prabhupada went along with that, and then he went in to explain that you have to know what you're teaching. You can't just teach and not know what you're talking about. So, not only would Srila Prabhupada, that's one instance. I mean, there's a number of them where Prabhupada would directly challenge people and their worldview. Just like that famous one, which is brought up in I think Prabhupada was in Paris, maybe, with that Cardinal Danilou, right? And Prabhupada was telling him that, why are you eating meat? Why are you, it says, thou shalt not kill in the Bible. And then, Prabhupada was challenging him. And the man was saying that, well, let's move on to more important topics. And Prabhupada was saying, well, no, we're not going to go on to more important topics. This is a very basic point, and until you understand this, we cannot go further. So, like this, Srila Prabhupada would challenge. So here there's also Srila Prabhupada's challenging, once again, right? So-called scientists speculate about other planetary systems, being unable to estimate the variety on other planets. They falsely imagine that all planets, but this one, are vacant, uninhabited, and full of dust. So he's challenging them. And then Srila Prabhupada turns up the heat a little bit in the purport, and he quotes this strong verse from the Bhagavatam, 2.3.19, Shavid Vaha Roshtrakarai Sangshita Purusha Pashu. And he's saying that this verse is explaining that men, people who do not praise the glories of Krishna and so on, they're considered to be just animals, pashu, animals. So it means pashu means animal. And then such people, and then Prabhupada is talking about who are those people? Leaders of society, politicians, all these people, the leaders of society. Such leaders are praised by men who are like hogs, dogs, camels, and asses. They praise such people. In other words, what the verse is saying, small animals praising a bigger animal. I mean, that if that is not strong, I don't know what is. And then in that purport, which we won't get into details right now because we're not going to go that direction, but in this purport 2.3.19, Srila Prabhupada goes into detail how people are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses. Which adds up, makes sense. So a question for the audience here, and younger devotees specifically. If you remember the first time or one of the first times you've heard Srila Prabhupada say something like this, that people are like animals, or you've heard devotees repeating that, how did that, first of all, from the younger devotees, does anyone remember one of the first time or maybe the first times that you heard that? Anybody? You remember?
Perfection of yoga.
You remember that? Okay. Anybody else remember one of the first times?
First we read the Bhagavad Gita, so...
Okay. So, So if anyone could remember, like, how did you process that? How did that make you feel? Like, what did you think about that? Because generally you don't hear people speaking like that. You remember? You wanna pass the mic to Mukunda Charna?
When I was reading Perfection of Yoga, that was my first.
I think I gave you
seeing,
that. No.
Yeah,
Oh,
Sunday
okay.
feast. Yeah, that was my first example of Srila Prabhupada criticizing others, and I liked that. I was attracted to that because I was also pretty critical of other people, not myself perhaps, but I didn't think he was criticizing me. I thought he was criticizing other people, and so I was happy to criticize him too. Later on, other critical words of Prabhupada in Bhagavad Gita turned me off, but at least my first impression, I thought, wow, he's so harsh and maybe unreasonably harsh and dogmatically harsh and so on. But I had that impression at different times with Bhagavad Gita. But with Perfection of Yoga, I remember being on board. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I see. Okay. Any other one like to share? It seems like Govardhan wants to share. Okay, Aviral.
I personally see it as like, as a love, when first I asked my mom that I want to, get a dog. She told me, oh, I already have you, so why even to get another one? So it's like, I see it as an expression of love in different way. So, yeah.
Okay. Can you elaborate further?
It can be Prabhupada is trying to make us understand that, hey, don't be like animal.
Yeah.
Don't be like an animal.
I see.
Who are just.
So you're saying that Prabhupada's using strong language to like wake us up. Hey,
Yeah.
don't be like an animal.
Yeah,
Wake up. Like you're a human.
Yeah.
Don't- I see. Yeah, Sura Prabhu, our if you want to say our old friend, our old spiritual uncle Sura, passed away some years ago. Was living in Los Angeles. He said that very often when he would hear it, because he was a direct disciple of Srila Prabhupada, so very often he said after hearing Prabhupada's lecture, he would question himself too. So do I want to be an animal or do I want to be a human being? And human being by definition means going for God realization. That's yes, Govardhan.
I was listening to a lecture by Srila Prabhupada, and he mentioned how human society is now polished two-legged animals. And they're simply doing the same things as animals, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, but in a polished way. And after I heard that, I kind of like stepped back and I was watching, people. And then I found that it was actually true.
Yeah. All right. So your experience was that so everybody practically was seeing how it was true and it made sense. All right.
At least ones who stuck around.
At least the ones who stuck around. I guess. Yeah, I guess it's an interesting poll because maybe some people read and like, oh, that's too much, and then they like leave or whatever. But those who first read the book seem to, or hear those statements, seem to connect to it. All right. Any other one like to share? Keep Pastor the.
I guess I don't have a specific recollection of like those specific words because I know Prabhupada calls people rascals in Bhagavad Gita a lot, but like when I read it, I'd already read a lot of spiritual like other translations of Bhagavad Gita and a lot of Buddhist things, and I'd just kind of given it all up. And when I read Bhagavad Gita, I felt like there was a lot in it that I didn't quite understand. Like I didn't understand like the things he was saying about, well, especially about women and about like calling people rascals and everything. But at the same time, I think I felt that it was something real. Like here's a specific stance, and maybe I don't understand it yet, but this is something real. Whereas everything else was just kind of like, unreal. So so I stuck around. Yeah.
Nice. You like to share something? You don't have to. All right. What about Uli? You like to share something?
It was similar to Govardhan's story. I think I watched a lecture, and he was talking about the repeating cycle of just, what animals do, and kind of relating that to what people are doing in society nowadays. And that kind of just opened my eyes and made me understand a little better what is it that he was talking about.
Nice. Yeah, so it is strong language that Srila Prabhupada uses, but we could see that he's taking that from Shastra. Because some people, he's using all this strong language, animal, but he's taking it directly from Shastra, from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Similarly, you have, like in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is one of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's authorized biographies, but you have cases where Vrindavan Das Thakur, the author, he says that uses strong language. For example, like, I will, if anybody offends Nityananda, then I kick that offender in the head or something like that. It's like kind of like strong language. And you see Srila Prabhupada on the morning walk, sometimes, especially those morning walks, he would use such language. Like, for example, referring to the atheists, or excuse me, not the atheists, the Mayavadis and personalists who claim that they're God. So Srila Prabhupada would say something like, okay, well, if you say you're God and I'm God, and everybody's God, then he said, okay, fine, then I'll be the kicking God. So Srila Prabhupada saw these people as actually committing like crimes. A lot of the times people may not see that this is actually a crime to propagate illusion. But he saw it as a crime, and therefore he would use such language. And he would do that out of his affection for people, as Evero was pointing out. He actually saw people as part and parcel of Krishna, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, Mamai Vangsho Jiva Loke Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, that we are all eternally part and parcels of Krishna. So out of great love and affection, he would use strong language to help the living entities come out of illusion. And as he's mentioned in this purport, that one should not be satisfied with knowledge imparted by a big animal, but rather they should take knowledge from a perfect person like Shukadeva Goswami. And this is the message of the Bhagavatam. Mahajana yena gata sapanta. So one should follow the instructions, follow the footsteps of these great personalities. There are 12. Swayambhu, Narada, Shambhu, Shiva, Kumara, Kapila, Manu, Prahlad, like Prahlad Maharaj, Janaka, Bhishma. So one should follow these different personalities, follow in the footsteps, follow in the instructions of these great personalities. And we see that if we are able to do that, follow the instructions of great personalities, then we will be able to become free from illusion. We won't identify with the body anymore, which, as we were discussing the other night, is just a real source of trouble. Identification with the body. For example, what happens when you get old, or the body gets old? If you're identifying with the body, then there's a lot of suffering. What happens? What about death? What about then? There's a lot of fear. What about identifying I'm American, or I'm Indian, or I'm Russian, or this or that? What about being in that mood and just living in this world? There's a lot of hatred born from that. I don't know what the percentage is, but a large percentage of the hatred in the world is just simply based on misidentification with the body. as being oneself. So if one's able to follow the instructions and example of these great souls, then one is able to be free from the bodily conception of life, which is a great achievement. And further, one is able to gradually make their way to experience love for Krishna, love of God, which is the goal of life. And as Bhajanarayan Swami was making the point of the day, it's a very nice point. He was mentioning how sometimes within the Christian theology they have, like for example, Mr. Lewis, C.S. Lewis, very good writer, but he wrote a book, it's called Four Loves. So there's like love for one's family, there's love for like a romantic relationship, there's love for, and so on, these different types of love. But then the highest is considered love for God. And then Bhajanarayan Swami made the point that going further in Vaishnava theology, there's different types. There's, these 5 rasas you could have with Krishna, these all the way up to conjugal rasa with Krishna, like the gopis. So, not only will one be able to get closer to that ultimate goal of life, but it's very detailed. The nectar of instruction, the nectar of devotions there, great detail, explains all of these things. So yes, it's a great science, and Srila Prabhupada put a lot of energy and time in trying to give it to us in his books, and his lectures, and his personal example. So we should try to take advantage of that, and that will be for our benefit. So does anybody have any question or comment?
I think we can say safely that Prabhupada was following his own guru, who was known to be very strong in cutting.
Axe preaching.
Axe preaching.
That's what they called it.
Yeah. And as well, he's following the Shastra. There's that verse you may know, Tasmad Utsrija Duksango Satsu Sanrita Buddhiman Santa Evasta Chindandi Mano Vyasangam Muktibi. So Mano Vyasangam is an important word. Vyasangam means that the mind is full of very sticky attachments, very, very strong attachments, and it requires, in this verse it says, therefore once you give up bad association and find a guru, a genuine guru who with his strong words can cut through and what would you say, excise these very strong attachments in the mind.
Yeah.
And otherwise, the gurus who are just ready to talk very sweetly and with you, it's just a cheating process.
Yeah. Yeah, Taduk Sangam Utsrija, that's in the 11th canto. And in our BBT, translation of that, there's no, as far as I remember, there's not a purport. But if you look in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the beginning of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that verse is quoted when the guru topic is being discussed. What chapter is that? I guess it's the first. Yeah. So that verse is quoted, Taduk Sangam Utsrija, and it's a very important verse. And as Javita Prabhu is explaining, that the sadhu, by their sharp words, they cut the illusion within the mind, the attachments. So Srila Prabhupada, he wrote a commentary on that verse in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So it's nice we have a commentary from Srila Prabhupada, not found in the 11th canto, but found in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. For those who want to look it up, and very enlightening. Yes, Govardhan?
It's just a question, a quick question for you. I'm not sure if you covered it. When you heard or read these statements, how did you feel about it?
Oh, how did I feel? I was deeply offended. No, I'm just joking. I mean, I read The Perfection of Yoga, and I started reading other books, and I like Srila Prabhupada's statements. So I didn't have a problem with them, and I felt that he was speaking truth, and that he was just saying things as they are, and I thought that was very nice. And then I read Prabhupada's short biography, Ever Well-Wisher. They used to call it, now they call it, I forgot what they call it now, Messenger of the Supreme Lord. I think they're printed in India, but it's Satsrup Das Goswami's, boiled down, very short biography. So then I read that, and then I was very enlivened by that, reading about Prabhupada and his coming to America and starting in New York and San Francisco, then going all over the world. I was very absorbed in that book, I remember. And I liked that part where he was the mantra rock dance in San Francisco. So it was always very enlivening to me. So yeah, his writing and his personal example was very inspired by. Still am. Yeah. But some people do have a problem with it, like I mentioned some time ago. Some girl, I gave her a book years ago, and she visited the temple, and she's like, I just don't like how he's saying it. People are like animals, But I think if people go further and really try to think about it and ponder it and meditate on it, putting aside all of their emotional considerations or putting aside any cultural conditioning, just really look at what's being said honestly, then it does make sense. So, any other question? Comment? All right. Happy Kadashi. Granted Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.